Hey, what's up, goalie parents? This mindset quick tip is for you. I've spent a lot of time doing mindset and mental skills training for my goalies. Well, this one's more for you guys, and I hope it really helps you parent your goalie athlete, not just your human, but your goalie athlete on even better. It gives you some tools to be successful as a goalie parent. Over the course of my years of coaching, there's always been one constant. There's always been one thing that's kind of remained the same. And unfortunately, it's not a great thing. And it's the pressure that I often see a lot of times goalies, young goalies, we're talking or between 8 years old, 8 to 18 really, the pressure that these younger goalies are putting on themselves. And that is pretty typical, right? It comes with the position. It's a very pressure-filled position, especially you're playing 8 to 12 years old. All of a sudden you're the one kid out there that everybody looks at when a goal goes in, and that's crazy. I mean, imagine having that type of pressure as an 8-year-old, and now you kind of know what your kids are going through. And unfortunately, what tends to happen a lot is parents, we care, we want our kids to do great, we want to support our kids, we want to be there for them. But sometimes what happens is that support and that love translates over to high expectations that our kids are perceiving, or pressure on our kids, and they're perceiving that pressure, right? Kids build off of the energy that's around them, and so if they sense that the energy that you're putting off is a high expectation type of energy or a pressure, oh, you got to make these saves, you can't play a game like that, oh, you got to have that one. If your kid senses that type of pressure and that type of emotion coming off of you, it's just going to add to their pressure, and it's going to make the game less enjoyable for them. So my tip today, and this is going to be easier said than done, and it's going to be something that you are going to have to practice at, is to do your very best to be their mom or dad, but not their coach, especially after games, when they get in the car, after practices, when you guys are driving home, or you're driving back to the hotel at a tournament. Be their mom or dad, be their parent, do not be their coach. And what I mean by this is it's very much human nature, because again of the love that we have for our kids and wanting them to be successful. It's very much human nature for your athlete to get in the car and for you to want to help them, right? Maybe they gave up a couple of bad goals. It's very much human nature for you to want to say, hey bud, what could you have done better on that one? Or, hey, what were you thinking on that last goal? Or on, what would your coach say? What could you have done different there? Your coach, you wouldn't have liked to have seen that. And so it's very much human nature for us to try to help others. And that is even more apparent when it's our own family members and, of course, your own kids. You want to help them. You want them to be successful. Unfortunately, for athletes and for goalies specifically, that translates to more pressure, and it translates to more pressure, but also not having as much fun when that happens. That you leave a game, you basically know in your head which goals were bad ones, or that you lost and you're not feeling good about it, or even if you won and you gave up a couple of goals. We got to give our kids credit. They generally know for the most part when things didn't go the way that they should have gone. And so then getting in the car and then hearing that from the people that are most important in their life, their parents, the most important people in your child's life, that just doesn't translate well, right? They don't want to hear it again. They already know, they're already beating themselves up. They're already under a ton of pressure as an 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old. And now they're hearing it from their parents. We have to try as goalie parent community, right? We have to try to allow our kids to be kids when they get in the car after a game, when they are leaving practice, when they're coming from a tournament. Do your very best to allow your kids to be kids. When you get in the car, if your first reaction is to go over the plays of the game or the goals against, or even, how the game went in general, let's try and change that initial reaction. It can be difficult to do. My advice, and here's my advice on what you can do if that is you. Here's what you can do. Ask them more about how they felt. Ask them more about how they did out there, how they felt. Did they have fun? Did you enjoy yourselves? Keep it really lighthearted. Even better, don't say anything at all. Just say, hey, good game, bud, and let them go. Let them talk. Oftentimes what will happen is when the youth athlete is allowed to have a place where they can talk, they will open up themselves. And then you could always build off of that conversation a little bit, but they'll open up themselves. When a parent kind of initiates that conversation, a youth athlete will ball back up inside of themselves. They may not be as open to offer more information because they're already maybe afraid, or they already know that they didn't do well, or that they made some mistakes, and they don't really want to offer that up. And so by giving them a space that they can open up themselves, you're allowing them to be able to reflect on their game, open up more about their game, and therefore build better self-awareness, which as an elite athlete, you have to have good self-awareness. And so now we're encouraging that. We're encouraging that self-awareness, encouraging them to reflect back on their game without being the one that initiates it, and without being the one that's kind of hard on them about it right from the get-go when you get in the car. So easier said than done. Do your very best to try and be their parent first. If anything at all, do your best to avoid being their coach. And that goes for being their skills coach, being your goalie's head coach, being even your assistant coach. I know that stuff's enjoyable and you want to spend time with your kids, and I think that's awesome. If you can avoid being a direct line of authority in their hockey game and in their practices, do your best to avoid it. Do your best to avoid it. I've spoken on my social media a few times about how my dad was my skills coach up till the time I was 13 or 14, and it was great. I loved having my dad. I look back on it very fondly. I was not the easiest kid to coach, but it came to a point where it was better to have a coach out there that was not my father, and it's going to be the same for any athlete, really any sport. It's just best to do your best to separate those things and be their support system. Be your goaltender, your athlete's support system. Be there when they need you. Be there to boost them up. Be positive. Be encouraging about them developing themselves. The worst thing you can do is be the person that thinks for them and tries to get them to think a certain way, or they immediately get in the car and you're like, hey, what'd you do wrong on this one? What could we correct on that one? We've got to try and step back from that as a goalie parent community on its own. This position is pressure filled enough. I've seen kids quit by the time they're 13 or 14 because of the pressure. And I hate to say it, I think a lot of the reason behind quitting, they may not even realize it, has to do with the external pressure that their parents put on them. And I see that every single day, and it sucks. It really stinks to see parents who just want the best for their kids actually increase the pressure and make things less fun for their kids, which is, of course, is the last thing that I know that you want to do. So just my advice on that, guys, and do your best. Do your best there. And if you got any questions on it at all, feel free to shoot me a DM over on Instagram at the Mental Goalie, or leave a comment down here if this resonated with you guys. I hope it did. All right. Have a great